So we are now screening on. Okay, we've got 1 minute according to my watch. Oh, now 4 o'clock. Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order. It is 4 o'clock. And our first item on the agenda, can everyone hear me all right? If you can't, just raise your hand when someone's speaking, if you can't hear because of the masks. Okay, have a motion moved by Bill McDonald, seconded by Sherry One. That the rules of procedure order be amended to move presentation delegations up in the agenda to follow number 5, mayor's remarks, and to move the public meeting up in the agenda to follow presentations delegations. That the agenda for the regular council meeting held April the 12th, 2022 be approved as presented. As presented. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in general nature thereof of any item on tonight's agenda by any member of council? Seeing none, we'll record that. Now have a motion moved by Cindy Kelsey and seconded by Sherry One that the meetings of the regular council meeting
I just want to note that on the minutes, it indicates that I voted no on the budget, and in actual fact, I voted in the affirmative. I'd like to have that changed.
Okay, so as amended, Tom, did you have an amendment?
Thank you, Marcia. No, that was a question that I was going to have. I just want clarification on it, and Councilor McDonald did that.
Okay, so as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, mayor's remarks. Just a couple of things. One is we have received a letter from the Ministry of the Solicitor General to say that our emergency management documentation has been submitted and they've determined that our municipality is compliant with the EMCPA in 2021. So all the work that needed to be done for the Emergency Management Ontario has been done, and we're in good stead one more time. So thanks to Jamie and the whole committee that worked hard over the past year to get all that done. My other remark is masks. Dr. Kieran Moore was on yesterday and I listened to him and he basically said, it's not a law or rule that you have to have masks, but if you want to protect yourself and those around you, you probably should wear them because we are still in a wave. And I don't know about you guys, but I know lots of people who've had it now. And I just keep touching wood that I can get through this few more months without getting it. But and we have staff that are off with it. And I think every organization has staff that are off with it right now. So fortunately, people aren't dying, but they are pretty sick and real bad sore throats and colds. And so if we can protect ourselves and others, that's a good thing. Other than that, Deputy Warren, do you have any, Deputy Mayor Warren, do you have any remarks?
I don't have anything to add at this time. Thank you, Madam.
Okay. All right. Delegations presentations. Do we have Chris with us? No? Okay. How are we going to do this? Are you going to put the presentation up or?
Yes, do that. Bear with me here.
This is the Eurasian water milfoil mitigation for Charlotte Lake. It was in our packages. Maybe while that's happening, I asked Kathy to give a call to the conservation authorities to see if this is on their radar and what, if anything, they propose to do about it. Kathy, could you tell us what you found out?
Yes, I contacted, sent an email to Quinte, Rideau, and Mississippi, and all their general managers. So they were going to be handing it over to their programs and the ones that look after the program for more information, and they will forward it to me. And once I have that, I'll bring that to council. Because I asked in regards to management control, are they looking at any of those items as well? And they said they would send it off, so, okay?
Well, and certainly we did support both Eagle Lake and Charlotte Lake property owners associations in applying for grants to track it and to do some different things on Eagle Lake and Charlotte Lake. I think both east and west basins, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. So definitely it is around. It was huge last year. The problem with it, I've talked to a few people about it, and that is once you start to harvest it, if it's not done properly, you just actually make it worse. It's like pulling sumacs. Unless you get all of the root, they thrive after that. So whether a harvester is the answer, nobody seems to really know the answers to that right yet. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I actually took time to read through this whole presentation that was given to us. And I think this is an issue that's much bigger than just the West Bay Shark Lake. I think it's something that another level of government has to look at. It's almost like a provincial issue. And certainly for Central Frontenac, we have more than one lake that we have to deal with. And the recommendations are such to be able to, no matter what approach you take, you have to have it at the right time. You can't disturb any fish hatchery areas. And so I don't think that we as a municipality would have expertise for the resources which to deal with this. Notwithstanding, the lakes are pretty bad.
For sure. Nikki, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. I know that the Charlotte Lake Association was successful in their grant, and they received a $1,000 micro grant that they're going to be working with Greg, with Dave Leonard, drones, doing some coverages and investigations. So I think they would be a great resource, and maybe we could get them in touch with this gentleman.
Yes.
They could all share information together.
For sure, good. And Brent, I had asked at one point if there's anybody at Queens that might be a biologist person or department.
I'm still waiting to hear from them. I reached out to the director they have a freshwater biology department, or at least the station that they operate out at Frontenac. And I reached out to them and I forwarded the contact information so they would be able to reach out to you. So clearly they haven't done that.
No, not yet. You're still hoping. Okay, Tom?
Thank you, Worship. I was just wondering if I could ask the members of the other members of council here that are on the Conservation Authority, have you had any discussions on this in your meetings or with Quinty and with Mississippi? Okay.
Victor? Go ahead.
Through you, Madam Mayor, at Rideau Valley, they have talked about it, but it's more at a just an awareness level rather than any plans for mitigation.
Right.
On a sort of a different note, I'm also a board member with Friends of Salmon River. We also got a $1,000 micro grant, and we're going to be doing some Phragmites mapping. And the Salmon River starts north of Kennebec Lake and then through Kennebec Lake and then down through Tamworth. So for the people in the Arden and Mountain Grove area, there is going to be a mail out so that they can report any instances of Phragmites that they can find. And Friends of Salmon River have actually done a workshop on how to do mitigation yourself, and we're probably going to be doing another one later on this year.
And that's the one that's like a big grass, right?
Looks beautiful, but really nasty.
Yeah, you see it along some of the roadsides and the lower water areas. Yeah.
I know that Beaver Lake was infested a few years back, and that's in your area of Quinty. I just wondered if they have eradicated it, or is it, have you heard anything? Maybe you could ask that question next time.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Bill?
Yes, I'm just wondering if we could reach out to AMO, to the other municipalities, if they in actual fact are presented with this fact or this request, and in actual fact they've taken the action and what that action is.
Maybe Kathy could give a call to some of the AMO reps and see if anybody's brought this Okay, the presentation is on the screen. I don't think we're going to go through it. Anyone who wants to see the presentation that's on our website, it will be there. There's no volume to it, right? Just the pictures.
Just there's just the questions that they have asked that they want some answers to, so I don't know if we want to address those questions. I would counsel that they are on the letter.
Well, I think that the basic answer is we need to do some more research and find out where we can find some help for it. The township certainly doesn't have the resources to work in the lakes to deal with this problem, and I'm not even sure that we have the know-how if we did have the resources. So we will certainly follow up and see if we can answer the questions that were asked, and see if we can maybe even get some groups together so that they can work with each other with what they're finding out. I have a motion moved by Tom Dewey and seconded by Bill McDonald that council received the presentation from McLean's Point Cottage Association West Basin regarding Eurasian water milfoil mitigation for Charlotte Lake for information. All those in favor? Carried. Great. Next, we have a public meeting to consider a draft bylaw to amend fees relating to construction, demolition, and change of use permits for building structures and other related services. Discussion. This was in our package earlier and is now coming back for last minute comments. I'll read the motion and then we can discuss. Moved by Bill McDonald, seconded by Cindy Kelsey. Whereas the council passed resolution 49/2022 on February the 8th, 2022, to direct staff to proceed with the proposed fee changes to the building permit fees. Whereas public notice was posted on our website and in Frontenac News regarding proposed changes to bylaw 2014-27 to amend fees relating to building, demolition, and change of use permits. Whereas no comments were received relating to the proposed fee changes prior to the council meeting today, now therefore be it resolved that council received comments from the public regarding the draft bylaw and consider passing said bylaw later in the meeting. Discussion. Did anyone hear any comments from anyone? Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, Mayor. The only, I can't find a copy of the bylaw, if somebody else could, but the fee for demolition of a building, I believe, I don't know whether that's a new fee of $100, I think. I was reading it all, I can't remember it all. If someone's just tearing down, say, an old shack on the property that hasn't been used for a long time, is that a fair price to charge them for a demolition permit? Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor McDonald. Typically, the fee would be charged if it was a building that was adding some value to the property. If it was a derelict shed or farm buildings are exempt from it. But if it was something that didn't add any value to the property, it wouldn't be something that I would charge the fee for. It's more or less to remove it from the tax roll.
Right. Follow up,
Yes.
I understand that there's a paper trail that has to go, there's cost involved, but who determines whether or not there's any value to that building when someone applies for a demolition permit?
MPAC would have an assessment on the property, and if the building wasn't being assessed, then typically I wouldn't charge the fee for demolition.
Yeah, so if it's not assessed, you don't need a demolition permit for it. So if it's a shed that's of no value and it's not assessed, you don't need a demolition permit. Right?
But I'm sorry to belittle a point though, but how does the individual know that this is of no value when they say, well, we need to get a building permit or a demolition permit? And they pay the $100 and then it's discovered that it was just a derelict building. When you do the research, is the money refunded?
Yeah, I would search it up on Frontenac maps and that would tell me how many buildings were being assessed. And if it wasn't assessed, then, you know, if it was something small, if it was a large building that, you know, they had to get a contractor or something in to demolish it, I would probably still issue the demolition permit. But I would look at it on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you.
Most people should know if you're being taxed on a building though. You would think on your property. And I can see a lot of it would be people, they would buy an older
Use your
cottage.
mic, Cindy.
I can see a lot of people would buy an older cottage, build a new one, and then tear the old cottage down so that they have their new building. Would be a charge for that one. Is that what they do, Andy? Is that a lot?
It would depend, a lot of the buildings, if they're in the 30-meter setback, I would probably just do an alteration permit. That way, as soon as you remove the building from the property, then there's the chance that you can't rebuild in the same location. So it's, I would look at them, there's different circumstances.
So it's a case-by-case
Yeah.
thing. Okay, thanks.
Okay. No further questions? All right, we're going to vote on this bylaw. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Been quite a while since we changed the fees, so this is a big step. Thank you, Andy. Now we've got more staff reports while you're here. Okay, moved by Tom Dewey, seconded by Sherry Wan, that the construction details March 2022 report prepared by the Development Service Assistant be received for information. Questions or comments, Brandon? Go ahead, Andy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Andy, is the growth still basically in Kennebec and Hinchinbrook, or is it being evened out this year so far?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Gowdy. I haven't, I didn't really compare that on this report, but I think that's where most of the growth typically has been in the last 3 years, and I think it's going to continue that way.
Okay, thank you.
So Andy, you will add that to your report, sort of what areas the permits. We started to do that, did we not, towards the end of the year?
I was doing it on an annual basis, but if that's something that council would like added to the monthly reports, I
Or
can do that.
maybe even every 3 months?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Rich, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Andy, I was noticing that we're slightly down year over year this year, but I'm just wondering, is there any indication that the numbers are going to hold or go up? Clearly, there may be a bit of demand that's still working its way through the system, and I was just wondering if you had a sense of whether we're heading up or down.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Cameron, I have received, as of today, 33 applications for this year, so it's just, I haven't got to issuing them. I've been helping out in North Frontenac the last few weeks, and I just haven't had time to get to them.
Wow. And this is for everything, not just new buildings, it's alterations and new
Yes,
buildings.
correct. That would be for garages, decks, everything included, but,
Well, we're interviewing for building inspectors next week. So help is on the way, we hope. Okay, any other questions or comments? It's going to be another busy year. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Andy.
thank you.
All right, moving on to Public Works now. We've got Tyson on.
He said he's got good roads.
All right.
I would see it. But
Can you hear us, Tyson?
I can hear you, Madam Mayor. Can you hear me all right? You've got a little bit of an echo. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. That's great.
Good.
I'm going to read the first motion, moved by Bill McDonald, seconded by Sherry Wan. Whereas the Township of South Frontenac and Central Frontenac issued a joint RFT to procure contractor unit pricing for the 2022 single surface treatment program. And whereas tender PS 2022-05 was released on February the 7th, 2022, with a closing date of March 2nd, 2022. And whereas the Public Works Manager has reviewed the tenders which were evaluated according to the criteria outlined in the tender. And whereas the Public Works Manager is recommending to award the Central Frontenac portion of the tender to Greenwood Paving as the successful contractor. Now therefore be it resolved that council approve the recommendation of the Public Works Manager and award Greenwood Paving as the successful bidder in the amount of $201,607.50 before HST. And further that the Public Works Manager be authorized to issue a purchase order for the work. Any questions or comments from anyone? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Next, we have motion moved by Cindy Kelsey, seconded by Bill McDonald. Whereas the Township of South Frontenac and Central Frontenac issued a joint RFT to procure contractor unit pricing for the 2022 micro surface program. And whereas tender PS 2022-06 was released on February the 10th, 2022, with the closing date of March 2nd, 2022. And whereas the Public Works Manager has reviewed the tenders which were evaluated according to the criteria outlined in the tender, and whereas the Public Works Manager is recommending to award the Central Frontenac portion of the tender to Miller Paving Limited as the successful contractor. Now therefore be it resolved that council approve the recommendation of the Public Works Manager and award Miller Paving Limited as the successful bidder in the amount of $246,993.50 before HST, and further that the Public Works Manager be authorized to issue a purchase order for the work. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Good to get these contracts out and back. Next, we have moved by Tom Dewey and seconded by Sherry Wan. Whereas Central Frontenac Public Works released a request for quotation to procure contractor unit pricing to pulverize the Zealand Road. And whereas RFQ PW 2022-09 was released on March the 18th, 2022, and bid submissions were received on March 31st, 2022. And whereas the Public Works Manager has reviewed the bids and has evaluated according to the criteria outlined in the RFQ and is recommending to award Greenwood Paving as a successful contractor. Now therefore be it resolved that council approve the recommendation of the Public Works Manager and award Greenwood Paving as a successful bidder in the amount of $17,520 before HST. And further that the Public Works Manager be authorized to issue a purchase order for the work. Discussion? Tom?
Thank you, Your Worship. Tyson, I support your recommendation, but I'm a little curious on the range in pricing. Do you have any comment on the spread? Because you have a high of 41 and the quote for Greenwood came in at 17.5, about 25 grand difference there. Any comment on that spread?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Dewey, the Greenwood Contracting, they've got a lot of projects in the area this year. The unit prices are fairly similar. That's normally comes down to the mobilization. I'm thinking since Greenwood's in the area and they've already got a pretty good idea. They're going to get some more work from Central and South Frontenac. I think they helped us out with the mobilization cost.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
makes sense.
Thank you.
Okay, no other questions? All those in favor? Carried. Next, we have moved by Bill McDonald, seconded by Cindy Kelsey. Whereas the draft strategic action plan was received by council at its meeting held December 14th, 2021, after which an extensive public consultation process was undertaken by staff and the Downtown Revitalization Group, resulting in the final version being presented today. And whereas the public comments have been considered and incorporated in the strategic plan, which has been endorsed by Economic Development Committee. Now therefore be it resolved that council adopt the final downtown revitalization strategic action plan and direct staff to publish the plan on the township website. And further, the council continue to work and support township staff and the Economic Development Committee in meeting the goals of the said action plan. Discussion. Lots of work went into this. Brent?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not really a question, but I would like to recognize a lot of the work that went into this over the last almost 2 years. I know that we have Tyson and Cindy here, and their contributions have been immeasurable. Also, Adriana Barbary, who's no longer with us, but was very key to getting us where we are, and the support of Frontenac County, Richard Allen, Debbie Miller, Allison Vanderbilt. But I'd also like to single out the members of the Economic Development Committee, which were core to this, and Allison Robinson, Bill Bowick, Sarah Carpenter, Maria Lockhart, and they put a lot of work, effort, time, and passion into this. And I'm very proud of the work that they've done. I'm very proud to have been part of this. And we're really glad to bring this forward. And we're very eager to build upon the success and try to do for other communities in Central Frontenac, other villages and hamlets, what we've done for Charlotte. We think this is the first step of many, and we're very excited about this. So just a big thank you to everybody who's been involved and so active and engaged.
Excellent. Good work. Bill?
I want to thank all the members, also as a member from this area. I got through the whole program here a couple of times. I just wondered, just a quick question. Do we have a time frame in regard to making this plan come to fruition?
There's different time frames on the different strategics.
Okay.
There's at the very end of the plan, there's sort of suggested timelines for most of the action plan. So if you put to the very end, those timelines are outlined there. Yeah. And they range from immediate to two years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion? Carried. I think that is it for Tyson. Oh, sure.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Bill has a question, Tyson. You can't leave yet.
We can talk about this through you, pardon?
Yeah, okay.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Tyson. We can talk about when we come back, but there seems to be an issue on the Arduk Road that was just reconstructed. You're probably be aware of it, but it's something that maybe Steve or someone should look at, because it looks like the hole's coming right in the middle of the road. So.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor McDonald, we're aware of the issue. The best info that we have at the time, it's definitely a weird one to get the bottom of. We've got a really nice base and really nice drainage and really nice culverts in that section of the new road. And we have got some advice that what may have happened from hole ramming those ditches, we may have actually opened up an underground source of water that wasn't there before by altering the rock. So we possibly have a spring, like now more of like a spring situation in the middle of that road, which is just a total bad luck. So we've got some pricing from the contractor on repairing it, but we don't want to move forward with that until we can monitor it for the rest of the year, possibly into next year, because if that's the case and it's not remediated properly, then it would destroy any surface that we put back over top of it. So we're going to have to, we got really unlucky with that one. We're going to have to keep our eye on it for the remainder of the season and try to get to the bottom of what's happening. But as far as we can tell right now, we're going to be excavating into the road and probably providing drainage uphill of that issue to get the water out of the sub base and out of the platform of the road before we fix the surface.
Good. Okay. Thank you, Tyson. If you didn't want to find water, you would, right?
Yeah. And Madam Mayor, if you don't mind, I'd just like to also piggyback on what Councillor Cameron said about the downtown revitalization. I also would like to thank everybody that he already mentioned. I'd also like to put a word out to thank Noah Greer, our public services technician, who is just doing an amazing job on the tenders and contracts. He prepared most of the ones that were awarded today, and he's just doing excellent. So I also like to thank council for allowing me to get up to the Ontario Good Roads Conference. I'm taking a lot away from it. So thanks a lot and have a great evening.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, all right, all those, oh no, we did that one. We're going to do conservation authorities now. We're at Wakeham Road. Moved by Tom Dewey, seconded by Sherry Wan. Whereas amendments to the Conservation Authority Act and regulations will require municipalities and conservation authorities to transition their relationship to designate between mandatory, non-mandatory, and other programs and services. And whereas the regulations required conservation authorities to provide programs and services inventory reports to municipalities by February the 28th, 2022. Now therefore be it resolved that council received the program and service inventory reports from Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority, Rideau Valley Conservation Authority, and Quinte Conservation Authority for information. Discussion. Tom.
Thank you, Worship. I went through all these costs and they're fairly sizable. And I was just wondering, are these costs based on the total conservation area, catchment area? And are they going to be distributed based on some formula to each municipality and their levy going forward? Or has anyone got any idea how these costs are going to be distributed back to the municipality? They seem to be pretty high.
Nikki, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. They told us at Quinte that the distribution is based on the breakdown by what the levy already is in place. So like for Quinte, Belleville pays the majority of the Quinte costs. So we won't see a large impact on what our levy is changed from year to year, previous years.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Does that mean Mississippi? Because we don't have a whole lot in Mississippi, just big though.
I guess the question for me is, we've never actually sat down and looked at what's mandatory and what's non-mandatory and had them explain all of the documents that was in the package that I read through, and I thought, I don't really know what they're going to ask us to pay for. I don't know what is mandatory and what's not mandatory that they're doing for us. I really think we need to ask them to come and just sit down and have a kitchen table conversation about what does this mean and what's it going to cost us. I think it's time.
I agree, Your Worship, because I was confused when I looked at the costing, and I thought, so I assume these costs that they outlined in their report for each of the conservation areas is for the whole conservation authority catchment area.
Yeah.
Is that correct? So, but then I don't know how that, like Her Worship said, how it's going to impact us. So I think there's some gray areas in there that I'm not quite comfortable with.
Yeah. Victor?
Through you, Madam Mayor. What has changed is there are some services that were just kind of put into the general levy that the Ontario provincial government has now said, no, those are not mandatory services. So now you have to separate them. So like the mandatory services, those will all come out of the general levy. Then the non-mandatory, it will be an agreement between the municipality. There will be a memorandum of understanding between the municipality and the conservation authority to provide that, and funding then will be very clear, whereas before it was not clear. It was just part of the general levy. So the idea for this is to increase the transparency so that the municipalities know what they're actually paying for. And something else that I can just mention, I think we're still calling her the executive director for Rideau Valley. We're changing the title. We're going to be changing to CAO. I'm not sure if we've done that yet, but it's coming. Summer Catherine Robertson has mentioned to board members, any municipality that wants a presentation, just ask and she'll come out.
I think it's a good idea.
I think we should. Bill?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to any representative, but if I understand is that the non-mandatory services that are being offered, we as a municipality would be better off actually employing or getting the service from the conservation authorities, because in actual fact, their catchment areas is going to be 10, 12, 15 times bigger than an individual township. So even though the province has stopped funding some of those programs that they call non-mandatory, I think it still behooves us to look at continuing to get that service from the various conservation authorities because of economies of scale.
Well, and I don't think that's really the question. I think the question is more, let's be informed about what those things are
Yeah.
and what the costs are for those. Because certainly without them checking out our severances and our minor variances, it wouldn't make any sense to do it another way.
No.
Well, that would still fall under the
Mandatory.
mandatory.
See, there you go. I'm not sure what's non-mandatory. Okay, let's invite.
Yeah, so some of the services that are non-mandatory are septic inspection and septic permitting. So we get our permitting through South Frontenac, but there are municipalities that get their permitting through Rideau Valley.
That's correct.
So now they have to create this memorandum of understanding so that all the costs are spelled out. We're not paying for it. For example, K Valley gets all of their permits done by Rideau Valley.
No, they have, same as we do, I think, don't they? Yeah.
But in any case, there are some municipalities that has Rideau Valley doing the permitting. And that just has to be all spelled out very clearly. So that's what this is about, transparency.
Okay.
So council wish me to contact each of the executive directors or CAOs and set up some times to.
Well, do we
I think
need
just
each
one.
of them?
Just one, you think?
Yeah, because this is an Ontario-wide thing.
Okay.
So all of the documents look different. Sorry, the documents look different because they've been prepared by staff from the different, but the actual, the reason for the document, the underlying reason is the same. So it's, you probably only need one presentation.
So Rita is the closest.
Yeah, between Rideau or Mississippi, either one of them.
The letter from Quinty into Brad that indicated he's happy to come.
He's happy to come as well,
Okay.
yeah. Sure. So I can reach out to them and whichever one is able to.
Yeah. And we don't need a long presentation. We just need to understand.
Yes. Mandatory and
Yeah.
non-mandatory.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Carried. Great. Motion moved by Tom Dewey, seconded by Bill McDonald. Whereas the committee of adjustment approved consent application B6821OL at the committee of adjustment meeting held December the 9th, 2021, with the condition to enter into a development agreement to provide for the construction of the private lane and bridge infrastructure, with said agreement to be registered on title. And whereas draft development agreement is attached to this report. Now therefore be it resolved that council approve the development agreement and authorize the mayor and CAO clerk to execute the final version subject to any survey and or legal input. And further, the council authorize staff to register this agreement on title at the applicant's expense. Any discussion on this one? Pretty straightforward. All those in favor? Carried. I have a motion moved by Sherry Wan, seconded by Victor Hayes. Whereas the 4 Frontenac municipalities issued a joint RFP from qualified service providers for electronic voting for the 2022 municipal elections in late January, with a closing date of February the 28th, 2022. And whereas 3 proposals were received and deemed complete, and demonstrations were conducted in early March. And whereas the staff from all 4 municipalities are recommending that we award the contract to IntelliVote Systems, Inc. due to their experience with successfully conducting electronic voting for all 4 municipalities in 2014 and 2018. Now therefore be it resolved that council award the contract for the provisions of electronic voting services, both internet and phone, to IntelliVote Systems, Inc. for an upset of $19,232 plus applicable taxes. Discussion. Tom?
Thank you, Your Worship. With regards to the total cost for all 4 municipalities, and they put an average score out there. Do I understand this right? Is that the cost per 100 voters, or did anybody, you know?
No, it's not, Tom, that was just our scoring out of 100, that's all.
Oh, okay. I wonder how they based their costing. Okay,
No, it was not based on the cost.
okay. Thank you.
Kathy did do a training session and was mentioning to me that there's a new section to it for candidates.
Yes, there is all online that you can access as well, and that's new.
And we'll have to learn too.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Great. Committee reports. Moved by Brent, seconded by Nikki Gowdy, that council received the minutes from the Board of Directors meeting for Rideau Valley Conservation Authority held January 27th, 2022 and February 24th, 2022 for information. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Want to call it Rideau Valley? I think maybe let's call that at one time. wasn't it?
It is Rideau Valley, so it's Valley.
Oh, okay.
But it's fine, we know who you're
All right.
talking
Thank you.
Let's read about it.
Moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Brent Cameron. The council received the minutes from Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority's AGM February the 12th, 2022, and the board summary report for March 16th, 2022. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Brent Cameron, seconded by Nikki Gowdy, that council received the following correspondence for information, and it's number 1 to 17. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. We have a motion moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Brent Cameron, that bylaw 2022-22, being a bylaw to amend building bylaw 2014-27, as amended, being a bylaw to regulate construction, demolition, and change of use permits for building structures and all other related services, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 12th day of April 2022. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Is there any notices of motion?
No, there is not, Madam Mayor.
Any giving of notice of motion?
No,
Any new or other business?
no, there is not.
Okay, we have closed session stuff. I have motion moved by Brent Cameron and seconded by Nikki Gowdy that council move into closed session pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act regarding 1, advice that's subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Section 239(2)(f) regarding landfill monitoring. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried.